During the period of Muslim rule, the much admired lissom Bengali woman with beautiful eyes and luxurious black hair all but disappeared from the public gaze behind the ghomta or veil due to Brahmanical patriarchy and Islamic influences. This continued till the later 19th century, when moved by the humanitarian and egalitarian impulses of the time, several reformers started a powerful movement to improve the overall position of women. Ishwar Chandra Vidyasagar, Brahmo reformers, Drinkwater Bethune and others set to work. But this influence was restricted in its impact mainly to the urban middle-class Hindu women. Muslim women had to wait a few more years till Begum Rokeya Sakhawat Hussain made an entrance. She is considered by many to be the true pioneer of the women's movement in Bengal, as the earlier social reformers had been mainly men. Spurred by the militant nationalism in Bengal at the early 20th century, a large number of women agitated against the partition of Bengal and joined the Home Rule movement.
Long years ago, we made a tryst with destiny, and now the time comes when we shall redeem our pledge. At the stroke of the midnight hour, when the world sleeps, India will awake to life and freedom.
On the midnight of August 14, 1947, as Pandit Nehru delivered his famous speech, one individual was conspicuous by his absence at the moment of India's tryst with destiny. Mahatma Gandhi spent the night at Hyder Manzil, a dilapidated old house at Beliaghata, Calcutta. Accompanied by H.S. Sohrawardy, Gandhi had travelled to various troubled spots in the city through the day. The effect was magical. There was a spectacular show of communal harmony in the city on August 15th, after a year of nightmares. From the moment of that midnight, the history of the two halves of Bengal, which was a shared one for millennia, began to move on parallel tracks. Language emerged as a key issue of identity in East Bengal from the very beginning. In a speech to the Pakistan Constituent Assembly, Governor General Jinnah left no ambiguity in the matter of the language policy of the newly formed state. Jinnah stated, "Let me make it clear to you that the state language of Pakistan is going to be Urdu and no other language." The people of East Bengal, who spoke and wrote in Bengali and were quite unfamiliar with the Urdu language, resented this move to deny Bengali of its rightful status as the most spoken language of Pakistan. 54.6% of the population of United Pakistan spoke in Bengali, whereas merely 7.2% spoke in Urdu. The issue of Bengali language and culture was closely linked to the question of identity of the people of East Pakistan, who soon discovered that a shared faith was not a sufficiently strong bond to keep the two wings of Pakistan, separated by 1,000 kilometers of Indian territory, together. Massive protests broke out all over East Pakistan when, on January 26, 1952, Pakistan formally declared that Urdu would be its only state language. On February 21, 1952, while East Pakistan observed a general strike, huge student demonstrations broke out all over the university campus. As the administration failed to enforce order by tear gas shelling, the police opened fire in front of the medical college campus, killing 5 students, Shafiur, Jabbar, Barkat, Rafiq and Abdul Salam. February 21st is observed by both House of Bengal ever since as Martyrs' Day. The United Nations observes this day as the Universal Mother Language Day. The events of February 21st, although greatly tragic, gave a fillip to the movement stewarded by educated Bengali speakers to assert their cultural identity and linguistic rights in the face of severe hostility from the state. Rabindranath Tagore emerged as the symbol of the movement and was banned for a while by the Pakistan government from state radio and television. Undeterred, singing of Rabindra Sangeet caught on like wildfire, and scores of schools teaching the genre mushroomed all across East Pakistan. Economic disparity also emerged as a sore issue from the very beginning. East Pakistan earned significant foreign exchange through the export of jute, but the funds were allocated to the budget of West Pakistan. 80% of the foreign aid received by Pakistan was spent in the Western Wing, whereas nearly 70% of the population lived in the East. Representation in central government jobs was merely 15% for Bengalis, while it was only 10% in the armed forces. In 1949, the Muslim League split in East Pakistan, and a breakaway group called Awami Muslim League, subsequently renamed as Awami League, was founded by H.S. Surawardi, Maulana Bhasani and others. When Sheikh Mujib assumed its leadership, he declared the famous 6-point program.
Give expression to their frustration by, drawing up a 6-point demand of self-rule for East Pakistan, in which, Bengalis will be the masters of their own fate, and West Pakistan will have no say in running the affairs of East Pakistan except defense and external affairs. This was considered almost a treason by the Pakistani ruling establishment, and the military thought that this was a charter for secession and dismemberment of Pakistan, which it will never allow to happen. And they put Mujib behind bars on trumped-up charges of conspiring to break up Pakistan, and the famous Agartala conspiracy case was filed against him, and he was put behind bars for about 3 years, but lack of hard evidence led to his acquittal, and he eventually came out. And he came out as a hero. The demand for self-rule, autonomy for East Pakistan, for Bengalis of East Pakistan, it gathered momentum, and actually this worked as a catalyst for Ayub's downfall. Ayub thought that this was nothing short of breaking down Pakistan, dismembering Pakistan, and he would not allow this to happen. And this gave rise to a tremendous movement against his rule in East Pakistan, and which culminated in a lot of violence and strong tactics that the military adopted, which eventually led to Ayub's ouster from power. He handed over power to Yahya, which for some time quieted things down. But Yahya said that he would he would allow a free, fair election for the National Assembly, which will draft a fresh constitution for Pakistan, and he fixed 10th December 1970 to be the date for holding elections to the National Assembly and Provisional Assembly of East Pakistan.
Elections were held to the Pakistan National Assembly in 1970. In these elections, the Bangladesh Awami League, under the leadership of Sheikh Mujibur Rahman, won 160 of the 300 National Assembly seats, thus being entitled to form the government of Pakistan. But things reached a flashpoint following the persistent refusal of President Yahya Khan to hand over power to the elected government.
A huge confrontation took place. Mujib said that, well, nothing short of independence, if he was not allowed to be the Prime Minister of Pakistan, he held that historic meeting of 7th March in Dhaka, where he said that this is the movement for independence. Turn every house, Bengali should turn every household into a fortress and be ready for a fight with the Pakistanis.
এবারে সংগ্রাম আমাদের মুক্তির সংগ্রাম, এবারে সংগ্রাম স্বাধীনতার সংগ্রাম। জয় বাংলা।
The students played a very leading role in this movement. They hoisted a national flag of Bangladesh in Dhaka University. Women came out on the streets and started parading down the streets right from morning till late at night, and Dhaka became a city of demonstrations against the Pakistani ruler. Yahya came down to Dhaka to hold discussions, but no solution was found, and then suddenly one day on 25th afternoon, March 1971, he left Dhaka, all of a sudden instructing his military to go for a crackdown.
The same night, following the arrest of Sheikh Mujib, the Pak Army announced Operation Searchlight. Thousands of unarmed civilians, including university students, professors and intellectuals, were butchered by the Pak Army that night.
The Searchlight operation was carried out ruthlessly from midnight of 25th March. The military fanned out all over Dhaka and all of the major towns and cities of East Pakistan and started killing. The military came to Mujib's house, got him arrested and flew him out to Rawalpindi. Mujib, before he got arrested, he had given a call through a clandestine radio transmitter, calling upon, he said that fight for independence had started, and he had already formed a government. The government was already in power, and senior leaders of the Awami League were its ministers. He was its president.
Nearly 3 million Bengali civilians were slaughtered in the months leading up to the liberation of East Bengal. Nearly 10 million refugees, with the last of their possessions, made the long journey to refugee camps in India through hostile enemy action.
The border is not a defined line. It's a mass of trees and bushes and riverine waterfare, and these people who you saw were not refugees from East Pakistan. I can arrange a lot of influx of refugees into Pakistan. If you like to come with me to East Pakistan, I'll show you how they're coming from India. But they're not coming in, nor are my refugees going back to India.
But it's a contribution to quietening the situation, as I say.
No, what does quietening mean? Does it mean that we support the genocide? And do you think it can be stopped? Do you think people are going to sit aside and watch their women raped in front of them? And say that, no, we are going to quieten the situation? That's not quietness. That is the worst possible type of war, is the worst possible type of violence.
As the Pak Air Force raided 9 Indian air bases on December 3, 1971, Prime Minister Indira Gandhi announced war on Pakistan. In a lightning operation with many twists and turns, the Joint Command of the Indian Army and the Mukti Bahini secured the surrender of Pakistani forces on December 16, and Dhaka was declared to be the capital of a free nation, Bangladesh.
Dhaka is now the free capital of a free country. The instrument of surrender was signed in Dhaka at 16:31 hours Indian Standard Time by Lieutenant General A. Niazi on behalf of the Pakistan Eastern Command. Lieutenant General Jagjit Singh Arora, GOC in command of the Indian and Bangladesh forces in the Eastern Theatre, accepted the surrender.
When I was as an embedded journalist, I was moving along with the 9th Mountain Div of the Indian Army to Khulna, which was tailing a Pakistani brigade led by one Brigadier Hayat Khan, and he was unwilling to surrender to Indian Army, though Niazi had already surrendered to the Indian Army in Dhaka on 16 December. And this Hayat Khan just won't surrender. He said, no, 7th Fleet is going to come and rescue us. We are heading to Khulna Port. From there, the boats will come and take us to the 7th Fleet, and from there we shall go back to Pakistan. That was the impression they were given by Niazi. But then all that action fell through, all that plan fell through, because the Soviet Navy was tailing the American 7th Fleet, and the 7th Fleet, seeing that they were being tailed by the Russian fleet, Pacific Fleet, they turned around and went back to the Indian Ocean. And so Hayat Khan had no option but to surrender to the...
This was by all means a red letter day in the history of Bengal. But Bangladesh was to witness a tumultuous journey over the decades following independence. Following the brutal assassination of Sheikh Mujib in a military coup in 1975, the country saw long spells of military rule under the regimes of General Ziaur Rahman and General Hussein Muhammad Ershad. Parliamentary democracy was finally restored in 1991 after a protracted struggle led by Sheikh Hasina of Awami League and Begum Khalida of Bangladesh National Party. The country has witnessed long-going simmering tension between forces of Bengali nationalism and forces of fundamentalism, and frequent incidents of communal tension and marginalization of the minority communities. Although, of late, there have been concerns about the re-emergence of an authoritarian state, reduced space for opposition politics, and misuse of controversial legislation like the Digital Security Act, there has been a general improvement in the socio-political environment of the country in recent years. Over the last 15 years or so, Bangladesh has entered a relatively stable phase of social and economic development and is fast emerging as one of the fastest growing economies of South Asia, with a development model based on garment exports, microfinance-enabled small industry, and women's empowerment.
তোমার আকাশ তোমার বাতাস আমার প্রাণে ও মা আমার প্রাণে বাজায় বাঁশি সোনার বাংলা আমি তোমায় ভালোবাসি